wait, that's me.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Games with BK YouTube channel. It's feeling kind of drafty up here in New York. I mean, literally, yes, definitely it's feeling a little drafty. It's a little cold. But I'm actually referring to this video because in this video, I'm going to be sharing 2 WNBA draft classes for NBA 2K25. But wait, isn't NBA 2K26 the current game? And isn't that on sale for like $25 right now? Yes, NBA 2K26 is the current game, and yes, it is also on sale for like $25, but no, I don't have any plans to buy NBA 2K26. Won't really go into the rationale here, but I'll probably talk about it in a future episode of Game Talk. Alright, now before I start getting into showing off the draft classes, I do want to say a couple of things kind of as a disclaimer. Please bear with me. Thing number 1. You cannot download this directly from the 2K share, but there is a workaround that Richie 2K discovered, and someone actually on my comment section told me about it, so you can download it that way. The instructions are in the description box. With these draft classes, I am not trying to present myself as some kind of an expert on women's basketball, whether it be college or pro. I am a fan of the sport, and I also want to be able to keep my 2K25 franchise modes alive with these draft classes. Alright, let's go ahead and get into this first draft class file, which is going to be a remake of a draft class file that I put out last spring, and that's the 2025 WNBA draft class. Alright, so we're here with the 2025 WNBA draft class for NBA 2K25. And the 2025 draft class, as a point of order, is the Paige Bueckers rookie class. Paige Bueckers, Sonia Citron, Dominique Malonga, the players from that draft class. For my franchise purposes, these are the rookies that came in during season 2 of my WNBA franchise mode with the Liberty. And for those folks who did move on to NBA 2K26, obviously these are your rookie class players for your season 1. For the folks who passed through this channel before, you might realize, or you might have seen, that I put out an older version of this draft class maybe back in the spring of 2025, I want to say, but that was around the time of the actual WNBA draft. And in that original video, I definitely shouted out TKOB 2345 because truthfully, his draft class was the basis, the branching off point that I used to build the draft class that eventually morphed into this version. So first things first, I found a draft class. I was looking around for draft classes, found one that seemed to work, had some players in it, and then I ended up using it as a template. Then I looked around for other draft classes to see if I could find decent player DNAs with at least the physical appearances so that I could go back and edit them, tweak them, maybe change some of the attributes to what I think they should be, and then that's how this draft class was formed. Of course, I also filled out the rest of the draft class as we got closer and closer to the actual WNBA draft and the aftermath of it, and players who made training camps and that kind of thing. And it became like an ever-evolving type of a file for me. Now, I do want to point out a few differences between the previous file and this version I'm putting out right now. And the main thing is the rating scale. The rating scale became a lot more lenient, I would say. Before I was a little more hesitant to make any rookie above 80. But then, with the benefit of hindsight, we already had the actual WNBA season play out. You saw how some of these players really came in and contributed right away and were like very effective, high caliber players like a Kiki Iriafen and a Sonia Citron. And of course, Paige was expected to be pretty good. But like we saw players play pretty well this season, and that made me decide that I'm going to move up the scale. And also benefited from seeing how the rookie ratings looked on NBA 2K26 because there's a website that gives you all the NBA 2K ratings for players. So I looked at that to help influence how I wanted to adjust the players since the video that I put out about a year ago. Also, as a side note, when I did update this draft class, I went about and created player DNAs for the players that I updated so that I could add them to my second year's franchise mode, like update the player that's already in that rookie class, just update them with the newer look, the newer ratings and all that stuff, so I could do it kind of in a more seamless manner. Another thing that I noticed when I was looking back at that old file compared to the current update is that there's some players that I really, I didn't do a great job. If I look back in hindsight, I didn't do that great of a job with that first draft class because I was kind of trying to put it out to coincide with the actual draft, put it out with that same time frame, and I don't think I really did my due diligence the way that I feel like I've done this time around. And I still might have some errors, I ain't gonna lie. And I'm not really talking about the physical appearance of the players, because you're never gonna get faces right, like 100% right. I'm talking about, I should have really gone over the whole draft file with a fine-tooth comb and plucked out the players that didn't declare. Like I had a Caroline Ducarme created player in this draft class. She had eligibility left, and I think she's currently at UConn as I'm recording this intro, and she could be a draft prospect for the 2026 draft class file. But she had run out. She didn't run out of her eligibility. She had more eligibility left. You had other players in the draft class who decided to come back to school after being listed as prospects based on the websites that I was using as a resource. And like a Gianna Niepkin, she's a top prospect this year. She would have been a high prospect last year. She opted to go back to school. She was in that video before. There's some other players too that I went around and not eliminated, but like took out of this draft class file and replaced them with other players that may or may not have been drafted, but they were like draft eligible and they were on the radar. So I did some swapping of players. This time around, I also went and tried to refine some of the looks and the sneakers and stuff, if I could find additional information, just to kind of polish this thing up a little bit more. And of course, it's not going to be 100% perfect, because it's a human being who's not an expert trying to create something out of thin air. But I feel like it's a pretty decent representation, and I think if you're someone who is holding on to NBA 2K25 and trying to play the WNBA side, it's a pretty decent draft class to start off with. So now we can move on to this 2026 WNBA draft class file for NBA 2K25. It's my 3.0 version. It's my version 3.0 for this file. I put out 2 other videos showing off the draft class. But before we get there, I gotta offer up a little bit of a disclaimer. Now, for this version of this draft class, I actually began using, I guess you would say, an AI component to it. Like when you start searching for certain terms on Google, you can get that AI overview. So yeah, I ended up using, I guess you would say, Google's search AI to get certain information about players, but at the same time, I didn't fully trust it. So I used it as a way to gather some information, but then I went and tried to cross-reference the stuff that it was saying just to make sure that it made sense, because not to be on the soapbox, AI ain't really what everybody think it is. AI is not going to replace your brain. Use your brain. Don't lean on AI as a crutch. It's a tool you can use for certain things, but don't let it replace your actual thinking. So just wanted to offer up that little bit of a disclosure to say that when I was using the Google search to help build this version of the draft class, it did have like an AI overview and those kinds of things. So wanted to mention that. Now what you got on your screen is the version 3.0 of my 2026 WNBA draft class, aka that's the Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts, Flau'jae Johnson, our fam draft class. This is going to be a pool of rookies that hopefully in real life we'll see this coming spring if the WNBA doesn't have any kind of work stoppage, strikes, or lockouts, anything like that. Now, in terms of the ratings, same theory applies, and in fact, I actually did the re-rating of this draft class before I went back and did the 2025. Take you behind the scenes there. But the theory behind why I re-rated these players is that I wanted them to at least kind of fall in line with the scale of all the other players in the league, so that the top tier players could at least have a chance to be effective as rookies and put up reasonable numbers as rookies. Now, on appearance, once again, I'm not the best at making and designing created player faces. Like, that's a skill that some people really have that I do not currently have. If you've got that ability, just put me on, help me get better. But I try my best. Another thing as far as the appearance though is that I try to give some of these players a real personalized touch in terms of maybe their sneakers. Some players do have NIL affiliations, like a Kiki Rice. I believe she's with the Jordan brand. I think AZ Fudd is an Under Armour athlete. So some of these athletes do have sneaker deals. So I tried to find either the sneaker that they wear in game or a sneaker from the brand that they rep, and then I tried to trick it out with a colorway that either reflects like their college affiliation or their nation of origin, or something that kind of gives them that little personalized touch. Now, I don't know if those colorways are going to be honored when they get to a certain team and they maybe change the colors up or something like that, but at least I try to do that, try to give them a little personalized touch. I know some of the South Carolina Gamecock players that are in this draft class have the A1 Asia Wilson sneaker with the South Carolina Gamecock colorways. We got some Syracuse orange colorways in the sneakers. We got some Notre Dame colorways. We got some UConn colorways. We got a bunch of different colorways. I know that Flau'jae has that Puma deal, so I gave her LSU Tiger sneaker. It might not be the exact sneaker she rocks in the game, but I'm gonna try to work on that. Probably a work in progress with this. Now, moving on to like the tendencies and the shooting forms, I ain't gonna lie to you. It's damn near impossible to really watch every player the way that you need to get this stuff down pat. Even NBA 2K, even the 2K company, especially with the women's basketball players, don't really get their forms right. Like, it's tough. So I pretty much winged it. I tried to figure out how they played by, some of the players I watch, and then also use some trusted resources in the form of trusted YouTube content creators. I'm gonna name a few of them. Hopefully I don't forget too many of them. But Hunter Cruz is a good resource for getting information regarding college basketball and pro basketball on the women's tip. You got Basketball Society, Protect Our Queens podcast, Martin Suarez, and I forgot his partner's name, but they do a great job with the content in the basketball space. There's another, I think it's called We Got Next or Up Next. He does a great job interviewing players. He breaks down game footage with the player, and some of these players are not like top level prospects. These are people who are like possibly fringe players who get training camp invites, third rounders. Like, I've listened to a few of those interviews. You got Point Out Radio. Point Out Radio is I rocks with his channel. I'm trying to think of some more without leaving out folks. You got Max Power 24/7. Oh man, I'm struggling right now. But in addition to that, of course, I think of Women's Hoops Masterclass, because they have like little scouting video snippets that you can watch, which doesn't really tell you the whole picture of a player. You got to really watch them, not just one game, like over the span of multiple games, to kind of get an idea of how they play. But yeah, those are some of the resources that I use on the YouTube space. In terms of the stats, of course, we go into the team websites. We go into Her Hoop stats. We go into the 9, looking at mock drafts. We go into the W Basketball blog. And the websites, I can't even remember all of them, and I feel bad. But the big asset that I came across a few months ago was this kind of a Google spreadsheet database, and I think it was put up by a Redditor named Ashwood Milk. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But it was a big database that had the 2026 and 2027 draft class eligible players, and that list was pretty in depth to the point where he was ranking or listing players who are like training camp level type players, or players who are just hitting the draft board. Like, that's how deep this list was. So I use that as a big asset to help me develop the 2026 draft class. The 2025 draft class was pretty much done last year, with the exception of the players that I had to eliminate, had to take out because they didn't actually declare and they were not like part of the draft itself. And I had to find alternates. But for the 2026 class and the upcoming 2027 class that I'm working on, that database was the big one for me. So we've made it to the end of the video, and the first thing I got to do is say thank you. Thank you for taking the time out to watch this video. I also want to invite all the people who still rock out with the NBA 2K25 video game, and especially the ones who play the WNBA modes. I want y'all to like check out this draft class. Like, legitimately, I want y'all to try to download the draft class. The instructions are in the description box, and then let me know what you think about it. Like, tell me how you would adjust it, like whether it's ratings, the appearance stuff, the shooting form, like anything. Like, tell me how you would legitimately improve on this draft class project that I was working on. Like, I'm really interested in that. The next thing I want to do is let you guys know that I am currently working on the 2027 WNBA draft class. That's the Juju Watkins draft class unless she decides to come back to school. And I'm also working on a 2028 WNBA draft class. That's the one with Sarah Strong and Michaela Blakes. All right, so with these draft class projects that I'm working on, I'm kind of digging in and mentally preparing myself to hold on to NBA 2K25 for the long haul, at least through this cycle. I might go into further detail in an episode of the Game Talk podcast, but yeah, the 2K company's gonna have to earn my bread. Thanks for checking out this video, and if you got some time, check out some of the other content that we have on the Games with BK YouTube channel.
Wait, that's me.